tonight, a bonus for parents and carers. The Mayor announces free school meals in London. Sadiq Khan wants it to lighten the financial load for families, but at a cost of £130 million, can the capital afford it?
It's not about my re-election campaign, it's not about party politics, it's about supporting those who are the most vulnerable. I think those with the broadest shoulders carry the greatest burden.
The 8-year-old boy killed walking hand in hand with his father in a motorcycle crash. The Roald Dahl row heats up, with even the Prime Minister wading in after derogatory language was removed from the writer's books. And
a real man doesn't avoid hard things.
From Holby City to Hollywood, actor Jimmy Akingbola joins us in the studio. Good evening. Free school meals for every child at primary school in London. That's what the Mayor offered today, and a move that will benefit 270,000 children in the capital. Sadiq Khan said he was doing it to tackle what he called the government's failure to step up and support in the cost of living crisis. But the bold £130 million announcement was met by a couple of key questions from critics. Where's the money coming from, and why isn't it means tested? Here's our political correspondent Simon Harris.
Meat free Monday at Fircroft Primary, and the school's most famous old boy is paying a visit. When Sadiq Khan was a pupil here, his school dinners were free. Today he announced every child in London aged between 7 and 11 will get free school meals from September.
I think some things in life are universal. The state pension, access to good healthcare, free school meals.
Is this the first shot in your re-election campaign?
No, this is not about my re-election campaign. It's not about party politics. It's about supporting those who are the most vulnerable.
At the Mayor's old school in Tooting, a new generation of food critics are honing their skills.
They're good, but sometimes they could be improved. Sometimes I like the meals and sometimes I don't.
I think it's really good because some parents can't afford for their child to have hot meals every day.
They won't be hungry and they will be full and they can concentrate on lessons more.
It's thought 270,000 children will be eligible. City Hall says it represents a saving of £440 a year for every youngster.
We have to look at it, I think, as a slightly different perspective, is it being a free school meal. It's a meal. It's a meal, and it should be part of the curriculum, the same as having school books. It's part of everything, part of social etiquette, part of building and bonding together. It allows people from different backgrounds to be able to be socially integrated.
The free meals are a last-minute addition to the Mayor's budget, just days before it goes to the London Assembly for approval. Sadiq Khan says he's found the £130 million to pay for the scheme because the money City Hall is getting from council tax and business rates is more than expected. Earlier this year, the Mayor announced his share of council tax would go up by a record amount, nearly 10%. There was wide support for the scheme, even from the Mayor's political opponents, although City Hall Tories think he could do more to offset the cost of living.
I think there's other things the Mayor can be doing. He should be helping by not raising council tax, by not making people pay a ULEZ charge this year. Those are things that he can really do to help as well. So, there's a question of how he's raised this money, and there's also a question here about how he's spending it. But it is really good that so many families are going to benefit from having these free school meals.
City Hall described the offer of free meals as a one-off, which will run for 12 months.
Well, ULEZ was just mentioned there, wasn't it? I mean, it's given him a brief respite from all the ULEZ troubles, but they're not going away, are they?
No, there's no let-up in the pressure on him to postpone his plans to extend the ultra-low emission zone to cover all of Greater London. As we heard last week, there's going to be a challenge in the courts. And today, the Lib Dems have disputed Transport for London's figures that only 200,000 drivers will be affected by the new zone. They say they've analysed data from DVLA, and it proves that more than 1.5 million cars or vans could be liable for a fine if their drivers don't pay the £12.50 a day charge.
All right, Simon, thanks very much.
Is you've got people commuting into London from outside London who are nurses, who are teachers, who aren't in well-paid jobs. They're living outside London because they can't afford to live in London. And now they're going to get clobbered by the Mayor. Now, we just don't think that's fair. We think they should have access to a fund to help them switch vehicles at the very least, and the national government should come in and help pay for that.
The Lib Dems think the mayor should postpone the ULEZ expansion somehow to London councils, think it should be cancelled altogether. But he's sticking to his guns, arguing that 4,000 Londoners a year die from toxic air, and that's more important than anything else.
All right, Simon, thanks very much. Next tonight, an 8-year-old boy has died and his father is in a critical condition in hospital after they were hit by a motorbike in south-east London. They were walking to evening prayers in Plumstead last night when it happened. A warning, Rags Martell's report contains upsetting footage which was filmed moments after the crash.
This was the scene moments after the collision. A father and his 2 sons hit by a motorbike. It happened last night at this pedestrian crossing in Plumstead. The dad was holding his son's hand until the impact ripped them apart. The speed of the motorcyclist noted by the eyewitnesses.
He was coming very fast, unbelievable. I can't believe. And once he hit these people, they smashed everything. Yeah. And look at, he hit it there, and from there they're dragged to the other car. Yeah, and it's very, for me it's very shocking.
The family were on their way to the mosque, the Greenwich Islamic Centre.
We had like a group of us over there just trying to pray for the family because the mum was sat in this middle section. You know, funny, she was sat on one of those chairs and a police officer was kind of talking to her and just kind of calm her. Yeah, man, it was just not nice, man, for anybody. Think about it, like your husband and your 2 children, and they're coming from the mosque as well. And this was just a reckless rider from what I heard.
Police say the 8-year-old died on the side of the road despite the best efforts of the emergency services to save him. The boy's father and older brother were taken to hospital where their condition is described as life-threatening. The rider of the motorbike, who's 20, was also taken to hospital, but he is expected to make a full recovery. Rags Martell, ITV News, Plumstead.
A new report is raising further questions about working practices within the Metropolitan Police after it revealed that more than 20% of those who have died in their custody were black. And according to one charity, 19 families are currently trying to get accountability within a system that they say is not fit for purpose. With the latest, here's Anil Adami.
This is the moment Sean Rigg was pinned down by Metropolitan Police officers in 2008. He died in custody. Today, the charity inquest has revealed black people are more likely to die than any other ethnicity, specifically 7 times more likely to die than white people, where police restraint is involved. In London, between 2011 and 2020, out of 77 deaths in or following police contact, 19 were those of black people. That's over 20%. The report also found that none of these deaths has resulted to officers being disciplined for racism, nor is the potential role of racism considered. The report includes lawyers and bereaved families and has concluded that the system of accountability for racism and racial discrimination in deaths of black people following police contact is not fit for purpose, citing cases like that of Sean Rigg.
The police and the government are not acknowledging the fact that there is racism and the use of excessive force. And so that's why it's important that families like myself keep this in the public domain and force the government to once and for all acknowledge it, own it, and do something about it.
While no officer was charged in Rigg's case, an inquest determined officers used unnecessary force which more than minimally contributed to his death. In 2021, the government claimed there was no evidence that black people were dying at a higher rate than white people after police contact. The charity want accountability for families.
Nothing should be more serious than the preventable deaths of people at the hands of the police. And we hope that the findings and recommendations of this report result in meaningful structural change and action.
In a statement, the Met says on the rare occasion when a death does occur following police contact, referral is made to the Independent Office for Police Conduct for them to consider a full examination of all the circumstances and identify any misconduct or opportunities to reduce future risk. The findings are used to improve safety procedures and enhance our training for officers. Marcia Rigg says it's just words about lessons learned, and the families involved still want to see some level of accountability. Anil Adami, ITV News.
A former Metropolitan Police officer is on trial for rape, attempted rape and indecent assault. Stephen Kire is accused of raping a woman in 2004 after showing her his warrant card and going home with her from a night out in Kingston. He is now retired but was an officer at the time of the alleged incident in 2004. And Tottenham Football Club has condemned the racist abuse of Son Heung-min as utterly reprehensible. The player was subjected to messages online after he scored the second goal during their victory match against West Ham yesterday. A street trader from Nigeria who's at the centre of an alleged organ harvesting plot has told a court in London that he thought he was coming to Britain to work. It's claimed that the man, who can't be named for legal reasons, was being lined up to donate a kidney to the sick daughter of a wealthy Nigerian politician. Charlotte Cross is at the Old Bailey for us. And Charlotte, this is the first time that we've heard from the alleged victim, isn't it?
That's right. The man, who is now 22, arrived at Heathrow Airport exactly a year ago. And today he told jurors here at the Old Bailey that he thought he was being given a chance to change his life, having been promised a job to help support his family back in Nigeria. But after a few days, he says he was taken to a hospital and he discovered it was something else entirely. He told the court, "The doctor asked me if I wanted to do a kidney transplant. I was shocked. That is the first time I'd heard about a kidney transplant. I was crying when I heard about that." He said the doctor went on to reassure him, adding, "The doctor said they will not touch me." He said, "Stop worrying and stop being scared," because I was crying and shaking. We were told the man was the eldest of 9 children and grew up in a small village in Nigeria. He left school at 15 to earn money to help support his family. And he said when he was contacted by a man named as Dr. Obina Obeta, offering him the chance to come to London to work, he thought he'd been sent by God. But the court heard he was actually here to give a kidney to 25-year-old Sonia Ekweramadu, who lives in Willesden Green and who has a serious kidney condition. Now, she is standing trial accused of conspiring to transport the man with a view to exploitation. Also charged are Obeta, who is not pictured, and Sonia's parents. That's her mother, Beatrice Ekweramadu, and her father, Ike Ekweramadu, who's a politician in Nigeria. The court heard that Obeta had told the man what answers he should give the doctor to convince them that he was family with the Ekweramadus, and had promised him 1.2 million Nigerian naira, that's around £2,000, if he underwent the operation. The jury also heard that Obeta had forced him to work for no money and was using him essentially as a houseboy. Eventually, in May last year, the man escaped. Now, all 4 defendants deny the charges and the trial continues.
OK, Charlotte, thanks very much. Still to come, we'll have the full weather forecast. Plus, from Holby to Hollywood, actor Jimmy Akambola is fresh from the BAFTAs and will be joining us in the studio. And calling it a day after 3 decades, we'll be visiting Europe's last Sylvanian family shop. But first, to the furore surrounding London author Roald Dahl, responsible, of course, for iconic characters like Mrs. Trunchbull, the Twits and the Bald-Headed Witches. His publishers have been accused of censorship after it removed some of the language from books such as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Matilda, taking out derogatory references to weight, gender and race. That move has led to criticism from a string of high-profile writers and the Prime Minister. Sangeeta Kandola has the story.
Criminals like you. Wicked and witty. Often dark, but always entertaining.
There he goes.
Roald Dahl's quirky creative classics have sold more than 300 million copies in 68 languages worldwide. But now some of that language has been censored.
What are you at? Getting terribly fat.
Every reference to the word fat has been removed from every book.
Grandpa, look at Augustus.
Augustus Gloop in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is now just enormous. In The Witches, new lines about why women may be bold have been added. Mrs. Twit is no longer ugly but beastly. And the Oompa Loompas are gender neutral. Publisher Puffin brought in sensitivity readers to adapt the words and passages deemed offensive for modern kids, rewriting in relation to weight, gender, mental health, race and violence.
See if that
child is still alive. It sparked authors to speak out.
Both Puffin Books and the Dole family should be hanging their heads in shame, because as far as I can see, what they're bowing to here is not some kind of, crusade to do good, but the ka-ching of the cash tills at Netflix. And I think that's something to be very, very ashamed of. And there are changes, incidentally, that they're making that they know perfectly well Roald Dahl would be exploding with anger about.
The author, who died in 1990, was himself a controversial figure. His family apologised years later for his anti-Semitic comments. The Dahl estate say changes made to new editions are small and carefully considered, but it may not have been what the author had in mind.
You can quote Oscar Wilde and say, "When I am gone, I hope it will be said, my sins were scarlet, but my books were red."
Once upon a time, Roald Dahl got away with language some consider unsuitable for kids now. But many parents may be holding on to their original editions to keep reading the books in all their nasty glory. Sangeeta Kandola, ITV News.
There could be good news on the horizon for regularly delayed South Western Railway customers after the company announced that 90 new trains will be in service on the line between London and Windsor later this year. But after a 2-year delay, many believe the move is long overdue, as James Dunham reports.
Yes, that is one of the long-awaited brand new trains being tested to eventually deliver improvements, which passengers say are desperately needed.
The morning one should have like 12, or sometimes it's 8. Or a random 4 carriage and you have to squeeze on.
I've recently been abroad and they're flawless, they're so clean, they're lovely. Yeah, I would think that they definitely do need an upgrade.
Does that surprise you that they're running late? Why doesn't it surprise you?
Because the train's always late.
Extra space, faster journeys, Wi-Fi and charging points. This £1 billion train set boasts big benefits. Hit by delays at launch in 2019, passengers were told.
We expect to see the first trains in service round about the middle of next year.
The pandemic then brought further hold-ups, and now technical software issues are preventing Arterio's use, delaying the rolling stock rollout to stations such as Wimbledon, Woking, Teddington and Guildford. Not only is South Western Railway without its new fleets, but some of its older carriages have been withdrawn because of their age, and others are being used on the South Eastern network. Decisions that were made under the impression the Arterio trains would be in service by now. And that's led to cramped conditions as controllers juggle with fewer carriages.
We know how much passengers need these. We've been working on it for a long time.
Stuart tells me the Windsor to Waterloo line will be the first to have the trains, relieving some capacity pressure when they finally launch.
Capacity can be shared across the network, and hopefully we can alleviate some of the overcrowding that exists at some times.
Are you confident that some of these trains will actually go into passenger service this year?
Well, we're working hard on getting this, the systems correct and the testing correct. What we just need to make sure of is that they're safe for the driver training and also reliable enough to go into service.
We filmed an Arterio stored on tracks at a military base along the south coast. Delivering all 750 new carriages could take 18 months. So with no clear departure date, the wait continues. James Dunham, ITV News.
Now, our guest tonight is an East London actor making huge moves in Hollywood.
He gave her a mercy killing.
I didn't.
He let that monster die a painless death.
Well known on our screens as Antoine Malick in Holby City and ITV comedy Kate and Koji, Jimmy Akingbola jumped ship to Hollywood, landing in the remake of 90s sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, playing Jeffrey.
Need Jeffrey wisdom? None that you want to hear.
And it's very, very exciting to have you in the studio, Jimmy.
Charlene, it's an honour.
I know, it's
good
been a while.
to see you.
We've known each other for well over a decade, so it's lovely to have you in the studio with us.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be part of one of the biggest shows in the States?
It's a dream come true. You know, I'm a guy from East London, born in Plaistow. I'm a Newham lad, so to be in Hollywood working on Universal Studios where they made films like Back to the Future and Jaws and stuff like that. I have to pinch myself every day. I feel very fortunate and blessed
Yeah, we're very proud of you. But how does your family feel about your new showbiz life?
Oh, thank you. They keep me grounded. They keep me grounded. They're still commenting on my posts and like, hey, you look like it's a bit cold there. You know, that typical British humour. But they're just really proud of me that when I decided to go to the States, they were like, go for it. Don't live life with regrets. Whereas sometimes love can be like, oh, don't go. But they were like, no, go and do your thing.
Now, you've spoken quite extensively about your family before because you opened up for an ITV documentary last year about your time in foster care. Why did you decide to do it?
You know what? It was the lockdown. Unfortunately, my family, we lost sort of like 4 family members across the whole year. And I'd been thinking about my story about 3 or 4 years before that. But right in that moment, it made me question what is family? And, you know, now that these people are gone, you know, how does that affect me? But also, what about the kids that were in care during the pandemic? Those that have just left and now they're in a flat on their own, or if you're that kid that's hoping to be fostered or adopted. And then I just realized that there's rarely been a positive care story. We've always mined trauma. I wanted to inspire that version of myself that might be 12 and 13 years old.
And it was aired on ITV last year and I came to the screening of it. It's such a beautiful documentary. Let's take a look at a clip. It features your mum.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
When we went into the children's home, he was sitting at the table. He was the only baby in there, and you could just see his head above the table. Don't matter what colour they are. He was just Jimmy.
And you're both still really close, aren't you?
Yeah. She's my mum, man. I was blessed with 2 mums and 2 dads, and like, you know, I think one of the reasons I'm an actor is definitely because of my mum, Gloria. Yeah. She saw it in me before I did, and but what I loved about my foster family, they just loved me, but also they loved the rest of my family. So I was always in touch with my Nigerian siblings and my Nigerian mum, and then eventually my dad. So I've had this nice hybrid of a upbringing, which has made me the man I am today.
And obviously you're in town because you were giving out an award at the BAFTAs last night.
Was.
Is it nice to be back in London
Come
town?
on, I was like returning home on the stage, on the BAFTA stage, presenting Best Documentary. It was a dream come true, and actually I'm hoping that it's a sign that maybe Handle with Care is on the long list for a BAFTA for the TV award. Yeah. But yeah, I met Viola Davis, Angela Bassett.
But surely they're like your mates now. You live in Hollywood.
Of course. I was like, I'm going around her house for a cup of tea soon. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to get some ackee and saltfish and some some agusi and jollof and everything.
Does it feel weird? Does it feel weird? This is your life now?
It does feel weird, but at the same time, I feel like I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. Yeah. You know, I'm an international actor now, I call myself. You know, I go where the work is, and the streamers have changed the game. And I just felt like if I didn't embrace the change of the industry, then I wouldn't have the career that I deserve. Yeah. And I just want to make my friends and family proud.
And very briefly, though, you did have to leave here to do that.
Yes.
What did you think that was something you couldn't achieve here?
If I'm honest, I think so. During my time of coming up, you know, and but also when I look at my friends, people like, not name dropping, look at Idris and something like that, I did see how things can work when you go, you come back and you're received in a different way. Yeah. And then like Idris, we've got my own production company, Trifles Productions. You create the content, you tell the important stories you want to tell. And so I just said, I'm going to do what he does, which is what my documentary is about. I was also going like, it's not about wanting to be a famous actor, but it's about showing that your start doesn't dictate your present or your future.
Absolutely. And if anyone wants to watch the doc, it is on ITVX for people to watch.
Yes, it is indeed.
But Jimmy, it's a pleasure to see you, and a safe flight back to LA.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right, Sally's joined us in the studio, and I hear that the bad weather's going to come back.
Well, have you heard of something called sudden stratospheric warming?
Weirdly, no.
Well, it can lead to very cold weather, and we have had one of these events in the North Pole, but there's no guarantee, and the Met Office aren't committing. So if you're hearing about snow or anything like that, it's a maybe, but we're not going there yet. Either way, it is getting a bit colder this week. Let's take a look.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Well, I hope you had a good start to the working week. Mondays can be a bit tricky sometimes, can't they? As this little one is possibly finding out a bit forlorn, but hopefully the weather's helping a touch. Tomorrow, not too dissimilar from today. It should stay dry, a bit more cloud around though. That's the main theme for tomorrow, and still mild, although maybe not quite as mild as today. It's going to turn a bit cooler though as we go through the week. So let's take a little look. You can see from this chart, we're in this air mass chart, we're in these warm oranges and yellows at the moment, but on Wednesday, this cold front sinks south, and that starts to introduce some cooler, fresher air as it starts to come down from the north. And we might even get a little bit of patchy frost by the end of the week. As for tonight though, nothing quite like that. We've got quite a lot of cloud outside, and that's going to stop those temperatures dropping down too far. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, obviously it'll be fresher, but not too chilly, lows of 9 to 7 degrees. And then as we go through tomorrow, well, you can see from the graphics here, cloud stays with us through a lot of the day. Into the afternoon, it might just be a little bit brighter than earlier on. Light winds and our temperatures down a tiny bit, highs of 9 to 12 degrees. So degree or two down on today, but should be still above average. And if you've got plans for tomorrow night, not a huge amount of change, staying dry, but again, that cloud clinging on. Now, as we head into Wednesday, that's when that cold front moves across us. So potential for some light patchy rain on Wednesday morning, but the day should improve, brighten up a bit. But as I said, it does turn things a little bit colder as we go through the rest of the working week, and do watch out for some patchy frost Thursday or maybe even Friday morning. That's it. See you later. Cheerio.
ITV London Weekday Weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
And finally, it's the only store in Europe that specialises in selling collectible Sylvanian family figures. But now the much-loved store in Finsbury Park has announced it's closing its doors for the final time after more than 3 decades, because its owners say they're finally ready to retire, as Helen Keenan reports.
Tucked next to a bakery in Finsbury Park is a little slice of nostalgia. The tiny collectibles lining the shelves are Sylvanian families.
She's a big fan, so her bedroom's like Sylvania, like a mini Sylvania at home, isn't it?
Sometimes I like setting them up like a village.
Some furniture and some dolls.
Yeah. When parents buy them for kids, like they're also kind of buying them for themselves because they're just so cute, and yeah, for everyone really.
The toys have been popular for decades.
The bakery's busy, let's go in. I like the look of that cake.
Created in Japan, the miniature animals are in demand across the world.
Look, they're dressing up for Halloween.
This is the only specialist shop that exists in Europe, and in April will close its doors for good. The owners are retiring after running the business for nearly 30 years.
People travel from really long distances, don't they, to come here?
We are really lucky. We're a complete one-off, so people will travel to find us. People in London on holiday, or will put London in their holiday plans for Europe to make sure they have a chance to come here and see us while they're in town. So yeah, lots of people from far afield. This week, Brazil, Paris, people from the States.
What's the most that somebody has spent on a member of the Sylvanian family?
The most we ever heard of someone paying for one character was £4,000 for one rabbit.
So how many sets do you think you have then at home?
Probably like 50.
50?
Yeah.
Wow.
I like doing like little displays. So yeah, I did one at Christmas, I did a nativity.
From new collectors to those who have been doing it for generations.
She would have been a baby, so it's got to be 40 years since I've been collecting.
Yeah, and my younger sister had them as well, and she's 4 years younger than me. So now this is my daughter, who's 7, and she's now collecting them. So yeah,
I think it's actually I'm as excited about them as she is.
With some of the originals worth a fair bit on the collector's market, it might be worth seeing if you've still got any stashed in your loft, or just to pass on to the next generation. Helen Keenan, ITV News.
Oh, bless her. Right, that's it from us. We're back with the latest after ITV News at 10. Mary's up next with the ITV Evening News. But from everyone here on the London team, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.